Well, hello, everybody. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome Cary to Shiver and Shake. Caitlin, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me to be on your show.
Absolutely. Caitlin is an alumni of the alternative country band Whiskeytown. It was founded by my favorite dude, Ryan Adams, in Raleigh, North Carolina. The band would become the stuff of legends within just 6 years of their tenure together, officially releasing three albums, including the iconic masterpiece that is Strangers Almanac. Whiskeytown would go on to inspire multiple generations of bands and songwriters from all walks of life. Truly, without a doubt, their impact and influence still continues on to this day. Caitlin, thank you again for being on the show.
Wow, well, there's an introduction. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Whiskeytown was formed in late 1994. If I understand correctly, Ryan got your phone number from Skillet Gilmore, Whiskeytown's first drummer and your future husband, who knew you played violin. I was curious, though, about how that connection between you and Skillet came to fruition. Had you two jammed together, or did he see you performing with your first band, Garden Weasels?
Actually, I'll have to correct the record ever so slightly, which is to say, I did meet Skillet once before the band, but it was when I was visiting NC State with my parents because I was considering coming for grad school, and we ate at a restaurant across from the university, and Skillet served me a bagel, and it had rotten cream cheese on it.
Oh my gosh.
And I had to return it, and we had this really funny exchange. Now, we do not, we did not remember this until sometime later, but so it was someone else that told Ryan that I played violin, and it's kind of it remains actually sort of a mystery because I had moved to Raleigh for graduate school in creative writing. I had not had it on my radar whatsoever to be in a band, and I do not remember who I told, even told that I was a musician. But I got this phone call from out of the blue from Ryan, who said that he was starting a band and he heard I played violin. Did I want to come to band practice on Thursday? And I guess I got caught in the right mood, um, and said yes. And that was where I met all of those guys for the first, well, what I thought was the first time until Skillet and I put the bagel story together sometime later.
That is awesome. So, can you illustrate and describe for me the first time that you met Ryan? What was your first impression of him like?
Well, I thought he was really young. You know, I was a very grown-up 25-year-old graduate student, and I think he was probably 18 or 19 at the time, and that those are years when age gaps are much more noticeable than at other times in your life, you know. And so he seemed young, and he seemed um, really energetic, and it was clear real immediately that he had a real vision in mind that he wanted to achieve, and that was immediately real alluring, you know. And also it was kind of fun and to just sort of walk into this room full of dudes with guitar amps all plugged in, uh and be welcomed in, and and that they were excited to have a violin in the band, you know, was kind of neat. Yeah,
Yeah. So, it was pretty clear early on that he had this remarkable, crazy, awesome gift for songwriting.
that's true. Yes. And very quickly, uh, you know, memory is what it is, but we connected kind of over writing, you know, because that was what I was so focused on at the time. I was writing short stories in grad school, and so when I um, caught on that he was such a gifted songwriter, it became a relationship of like, um, hey, slow down. Let's really think about the writing here. And to some extent, he was willing to do that. Sometimes more than others, because he wrote fast and he wrote, you know, he's certainly someone that you would describe as like a, I don't throw around the term genius, and I wouldn't even do that here, but just he wrote from his heart, and he had a real gift, for a turn of phrase and for expressing truth, and it seemed pretty effortless. And it was kind of funny because at the same time I had come to NC State uh, because Lee Smith, an author that I admired greatly, was teaching here at the time. And it turned out she was sort of the same. I wanted a writing mentor, and she kind of she was a wonderful teacher because of her zeal, but she wasn't. She just sort of writes, and it just sort of comes out, you know.
Right? So you go in, you meet these guys. Were you immediately sold on the idea of joining the band, or did you have to convince yourself?
I definitely had to convince myself, and it's very difficult to remember how that decision-making process when it felt, because everything happened for the band at really, truly lightning speed. There was like label interest. It felt like from the moment we played our first show. I'm not quite sure it really was that fast, but it felt like that. And so yeah, snap decisions had to be made about, am I gonna do this? Am I gonna focus on this rather than school? And yeah, so I definitely had reservations about the whole thing, but I made my choice and jumped in with both feet, kind of.
So, reflecting on your time with Ryan in Whiskeytown, in 2007, you said, I think what was best about singing with Ryan was a sort of understanding that we had a connection that made it seem effortless to find the right part without laboring over it. He could write a song and I'd be singing along with him by the second chorus. It was painless and also very exciting. The special camaraderie between the two of you would produce fan favorites like My Heart is Broken, Houses on the Hill, Turn Around, Don't Want to Know Why, Easy Hearts. And I was hoping you could tell us about your working relationship with Ryan, more specifically, how you wrote songs together. For example, did you contribute to the lyrics, or did some of the songs come about from a violin piece that you had written?
We we pretty quickly developed what I would describe as sort of a sibling kind of relationship. We would argue, and I was the big sister, and and as I said, I was really seriously into writing, um, and in a way that was informed by, college and grad school. Um, and and I would say that, yeah, as I said, my role was oftentimes, he would come with a song that was partly finished, and I would sort of function in a suggestion and editing kind of role. Um, but we also did the kind of more sort of, what people think about when they think about Nashville songwriting of two writers in a room with a notebook and a guitar where we traded lines back and forth. Um, there was some of that too, and then there were lots of songs that I didn't write on because I didn't feel sort of that it, he also wrote pretty just real direct kind of rock and roll songs that they didn't need anything and except a great harmony part, and that was very effortless, as I said in that long ago quote. I wonder where that was from. But it was a brother sister relationship in that way too, because we sang together just easily like brothers and sisters do. Our voices were somehow complementary in that way.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite Whiskeytown song?
Gosh, well, I guess I loved the prettier songs the most. I might pick, well, there was a song called The Battle that we never recorded as Whiskeytown that I put on a solo record that I'll go ahead and say that was my favorite. How about that?
Okay. No, that's a good choice. So speaking of stuff that's never been released or recorded, it is well known amongst the fan community that there's still a lot of music recorded by Whiskeytown that remains unreleased. Most notably the Forever Valentine album, which has gone on to become a much beloved bootleg. Do you have any insight as to whether or not those recordings will ever be given an official release, or is that more of a label decision?
Yeah, I'm afraid that that would be a label decision because everything that we recorded around that time was the property of the record label that we were signed to. They are releasing, some of those things have been released on um, various compilations and things, as you think you just said, but they're also releasing some of it right now, I think, on these vinyl releases that are happening right now for, I guess for Record Store Day, or sorry, you'll have to forgive my naivete about it. I haven't really kept up with. They don't come and ask you if you'd like to put out your record. They just do it. So, but it is kind of cool that both Pneumonia and and Faithless Street, excuse me, are coming out on vinyl right now.
Yeah, actually, all three have been pressed again this year, and Faithless Street for the very first time just this
Yeah.
month is coming out. So there's definitely still a audience that's hungry for Whiskeytown. So hopefully the label realizes that and releases Forever Valentine's and other stuff. Um, but with that said, the last time that you and Ryan shared a stage together was 21 years ago this month in Raleigh, North Carolina at the end of a Cardinal show. If the opportunity presented itself, would you be open to a Whiskeytown reunion?
Well, I kind of doubt the opportunity will present itself, but I would be open-minded. Let's put it that way. I wouldn't, I don't close doors, and I'm not dumb enough to shut any doors in
So,
my life.
what would the ideal reunion look like to you? Would you want to make another album, or would a tour be more appropriate for this day and age?
Oh, well, I can't imagine that if we did put the thing back together again, that we wouldn't want to, like, Ryan's not much for looking backward. I think it would probably be a stretch. I think it'd probably be difficult on him to even play the old stuff. Um, you know what I mean? That's not how he operates. So I think probably everyone else in the band would be saying, "Hey, dude, the people want to hear the hits." But yeah, I can only imagine that he would want to make new music, and that could be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Following the conclusion of Whiskeytown in 2000, you've gone on to release two solo albums in addition to collaborating with other musicians through the years on various projects. However, your artistry extends beyond music. When I was looking at your website and just looking in the background there, I was amazed by all of the beautiful textile fabric collages that you've created. And I was hoping you could share a little bit about the inspiration behind that work.
Thank you. Yeah, I have been um I've never stopped making music, but doing it more in the last about 10 years, just more like occasionally and for fun and for raising funds for people or for um unfortunately as of late for memorializing people who we've lost and that sort of thing. And I have uh, come to focus a lot more on a visual art practice, as you said, making work using repurposed fabric that I um, make into two-dimensional collages that are meant for hanging on the wall. They're of course they're sewn and it's a friend of quilting, I always say, but they're not quilts. They're made, they're fine art. And yeah, I have feel really very, very fortunate to say that I am able to make my living as an artist as I have all these years in various ways. And that's as I always say, the only smart thing I ever did was buy a house in the 90s. So my life is cheap, But but yeah, so that's and I find myself sort of um constitutionally a lot more suited to a life in an art studio than to a life on the road. Um, I find it really rewarding and uh, yeah, I wasn't really made to tour the country in a van for the rest of my life. That's it's a rough go.
I can
You have to be
imagine.
made out of salty stuff.
Right. So what are your plans for 2026 and beyond?
Well, I'm going to keep making art, and I'm planning to like visiting some other areas of the country, trying to get my work kind of beyond the beyond my town where I have been very fortunate to be able to say that I've had some success selling my work, but it's kind of time to start spreading out a little bit. So that's in my goals for this year and next to get it out into the world a little bit more.
Absolutely. And for those who are interested in your artwork, is your website caitlincary.org? Is that correct?
It's .com, I'm pretty
.com.
sure. Yep,
Sorry.
.com. Yeah,
And they can actually hire you for commissioned work too, right?
that's right. I work from photographs, so I can make a really cool portrait of your home or your family business in fabric. Yep.
Awesome. So to wrap things up, I wanted to read something that Thomas O'Keefe, who was Whiskeytown's tour manager, wrote about you in his book Waiting to Derail. He described your fiddle playing and harmony vocals as the defining elements of Whiskeytown's sound. He went on to write that you and Ryan were a perfect pairing because you weren't an exact match.
Mhm.
Ryan might have been the heart of Whiskeytown, but Caitlin Cary was the soul. The melancholy sound of her fiddle, the way her vocal harmonies floated above Ryan's, adding a teaspoon of sugar to Ryan's voice. And I agree with Thomas, but I just wanted to add that your personal contributions to that band mean the world to so many people. I'm not exaggerating when I say this, that almost every day I read a comment on social media about how much Whiskeytown's music has either inspired them to pick up an instrument, helped them to shake off severe depression, or even just made their life a little bit better after discovering one of your songs. So, if no one has told you this lately, thank you for all of your hard work, for the magic and the joy that you have shared with everyone lucky enough to know how truly great this band was and continues to be. The legacy that you helped create will continue to live on for generations to come. So, thank you, Caitlin.
You are so kind. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And
Thanks a million.
thank you for coming on the show. We love you.
Thanks. Love you back.
See ya.
Okay.